If I told you it cost $55,000 to produce a blog post or a page that would generate $3.6 million annually, that's a no-brainer, right? What does a single keyword cost? I investigate that this week along with new tools to search using AI, some fascinating billion query SGE surveys, and my voice is going. That's what happens when you record podcasts and you're sick and you have a toddler running around. But there's so much good stuff, so come along, check it out. Let's dive in. Welcome back to another episode of the SEO Weekly, where queries are weird, advice is controversial, and everything depends. I'm your host, Garrett Sussman of iPullRank, and every week I cover everything going on in the world of SEO. We're talking Google updates, blog posts, webinars, podcasts, tools, social, you name it, I'm on it. If you're into this stuff, please subscribe to the channel, give me a like, leave me a comment. It helps the algorithms, up and to the right, all that jazz. So much to cover, a little condensed version this week, but still fascinating nonetheless. So let's dive in. On Wednesday, Google announced two fascinating new features that should provide a new way for us to search using AI. They are leaning in hard on the AI technology. The first is the circle to search. So this is specific to Android phones, but the idea is no matter where you are on your Android phone, you could literally circle or scribble and it'll bring up Google search results that are tethered to AI to be able to look at a screenshot, text, whatever, you name it, whatever's on your phone to search in that moment. The secondary part of this dives into both AI and the multimodal, the ability to combine audio and text and visuals and images for the ability to search. In essence, what you'd be able to do is point your Google Lens and ask a question, and Google would be able to combine those. The example they use is, say you're at a flea market, you're looking at a new game, you have no idea what it is, so you point your phone at the game and you say, hey Google, what is this and how do you play it? And it would understand and be able to explain it. It makes sense as AI technology allows you to be able to interact with your world more naturally, more organically. It understands, well, not technically understands, it's a lot of machine learning, but it's getting better at being able to answer your questions via voice search or images, you name it, the data is there. Britney Muller pointed out on Twitter, that Google has said that they're going to try to boldly use generative AI more expansively in their products, keyword boldly. It did lead to a very interesting thread between Greg Bernhardt, Lyndon Nelson-Allen, and Cindy Krum talking about the implications for SEOs, because Google is not necessarily going to tell us where these searches come from. As more and more features show up in the SERPs, sure, we're able to see, where discovery searches come from, but a lot of SERP features, we really don't know. Feature snippets, you don't know. Any of these AI SGE, we don't know if it's coming from SGE or the organic SERP. Sometimes procs get confusing. And so what are the implications of that? Does Google even care? Maybe not. Maybe them being ambiguous and not transparent about searches can, as Cindy implies, protect them from, certain lawsuits, you name it. It's a very interesting thought process that makes a lot of sense. In addition to that, there was a study done recently that looked at the degrading quality of search results, somewhat relevant, but with the overwhelming AI generative content that's super problematic. The study found that in terms of product reviews and affiliate sites, Google is dealing, and all search engines are dealing with, a massive overload of optimized affiliate content that's really not helpful at all, that's ranking highly in the search, and Google cannot necessarily figure it out all at once. That's why sometimes when you search for a product review and you see really crappy results at the top, it's still fully optimized in terms of relevancy. And maybe, as Cindy implies, in the future, Google needs to continue to focus on brand and trust signals more than just relevancy, which is risky and will ultimately reward bigger brands with more resources. But maybe that does make sense. In an upcoming episode of the Rankable podcast, I interviewed Erica Varanguli of Semrush. She's the head of SEO branding. We talked about this brand question, and she addressed that question specifically. I'll let her take it away in this little clip. Erica?
Ooh, I'd hate to be Google nowadays.
Right?
But okay, so here's my personal opinion, right? I'm not
Personal.
speaking for anyone else or saying someone has said it and it's official. My personal opinion is that it's very hard for a search engine to achieve that level of excellence with so much content out there and so many signals from different sources, to achieve that level of that almost complete objectivity based on that content is great, it should do better. But here's the plot twist for me. Having a big brand doesn't happen by accident, right? Having a brand is not just a result of an Erica somewhere coming up with, you know, funny messaging that people love and that makes you a brand. Like, let's consider I don't know, websites like Amazon, for example, or let's go Airbnb. You can look at it from many perspectives, right? And it's like, okay, they have amazing content on social, or they have this, they have that. But look at Amazon. Their content is not the best on product pages, right? But what I get as a user, and that is consistent through the years, so consistency matters, is I have a big index of products. So as a consumer, that matters. Like if I go to a shop and I find 3 products versus being able to compare 300, I personally feel lost after a bit, but many times that has helped me. And then I have all this trust, you know, where are they? Is someone stealing my money? The amount of times I found something really appealing online and then my worry is that it's someone in another place trying to scam me to pay them money and never send what I'm intending to buy. So all of these things are collective signals that build a brand. I would argue that, yes, if you're a new company, you haven't had the time to build a brand yet, right? So you have to over-rely on other things that you can control more imminently. But over time, it's almost, for me, it doesn't make any sense not to have a reputation. If brand is your reputation, like what others say about what they think about you, it's kind of weird if after years of doing something and doing it well, you don't have that kind of reputation. So I would think it's impossible to get to that level. Well, you know, I'm a small retailer looking Amazon in the eye. And maybe I shouldn't outrank them just because I have better content on my site, because the element of trust with users goes beyond just, you know, a great landing page.
So ultimately, coming back to the AI features, I anticipate, along with Britney and all these folks, is that Google will continue to mess with the way that we search with this technologies into a new paradigm that's not just the old organic 10 blue links that you saw in the past. Are their motives and intentions positive? I hope so. I hope they care about the audience and it's not just about protecting themselves or money, which, you know, it probably is. But I expect more of these AI-related search features to hopefully improve the search experience over the next year. What do you think? Speaking of AI and Google, SGE still not rolled out, but BrightEdge did a massive data study. We're talking at 1 billion queries and came to some very interesting conclusions. First off, they looked at the impact of SGE might have on specific industries, top 9 industries, and what they found might actually be a little surprising. They found the most impacted industries from highest to lowest are going to be healthcare, then e-commerce, then B2B tech, insurance, education, restaurants, entertainment, travel, and finance. Pretty shocking that healthcare is so high, not shocking that finance is so low. Now, the study actually looked at the different elements of SGE and found a couple of familiar types of content that show up in the snapshot beyond the generative AI text. They found unordered lists, locations, unordered lists that actually have more of a breakout, product views, you know, different warnings for your money, your life types of queries. So it gives you the sense of what to expect for SGE. Now, SEOClarity and Mark Traphagen actually did their own kind of follow-up study on SGE to point out a couple of key takeaways that you might not find anywhere else and what his instance of nuances are. Now, Mark caveats that the version of SGE that we're seeing in this experiment is unlikely to actually be the version that's rolled out to Google. So we do need to take all of this with a grain of salt. But his insights were rankings are totally different in SGE compared to the normal SERPs. As our own Mike King did his study, they found that it's not necessarily just the top 10 results or just the top 3 results that show up in the AI snapshot. It is all over the place, which means that if this ends up becoming a major thing, you're going to want to optimize for SGE snapshot as much as just your organic results. And it's slightly different. In Mike's post back on Search Engine Land, he talked about the idea of a different set of content relevance based on the generative text. In other words, you can look at the text in the snapshot and then reverse engineer the content that it's pulling from, and then update your content to be similar and hopefully show up in SGE, but it is a black box. It's very unknown. Point 2, local results are subpar according to Mark. He thinks the results from the normal organic local map pack is better than what you're seeing because it's a little all over the place. There are too many relevants and not always perfect. Number 3, shopping results are limited, which I agree with. You only see a few different results and you're not seeing like the best of affiliate lists, which, you know, unless it's the top tier like Wirecutters types of product reviews, those aren't always the most helpful and they are biased. But you're only seeing a few different products in the SGE e-commerce snapshot compared to an entire organic shopping experience. It talks about top of the funnel research is useful, but you may be left out. How important it is to show up in the content that does show for informational searches. Even if it's not your content, you want to show up in other people's lists. It's really important, high impact. And then finally, the intent is sometimes off. Search intent is so important, and sometimes SGE gets it wrong. What'll be interesting in the long term is how it will actually change the way that we search. You know, mentioning the AI features earlier about being able to interact more naturally with search engines, you're not going to be limited to certain like 2-word keywords. We're going to see longer keywords that are going to be pretty impossible to track the rankings and the performance of. That said, all really interesting stuff. Another SGE tool added by none other than Aleyda Solis. It is a Google Sheet spreadsheet that allows you to track manually SGE keywords. So looking at the intent, the search volume, the click-through rate, monthly visits, and then your current position in the SERPs, search features in the SERPs, inclusion in search features, visibility above the fold, ranked pages in SERPs, and then it goes into the SGE stuff, like is there an SGE snapshot? What is the type? Does it answer or fulfill the user needs? Does the snapshot link to your site? Is there potential for traffic erosion? Should you prioritize it? And then what are those ranked pages? What are the pages that are showing up in the snapshot? And what action should you take? This is a great tool for an SEO to manually prepare themselves and mitigate the risk. If you do need an actual report on what might happen to your website at scale, especially if you're dealing with tens of thousands of pages, we do still offer the iPullRank SGE Threat Report that you can get delivered to you, goes through everything, and then, you know, gives you the heads up in terms of what's going to be impacted by how fast it loads, whether it loads or not, a bunch of different factors that will impact your traffic and give you a forecast of potential losses. And for your tweet of the day, ex-post of the day from Cyrus Shepard, he called out things I wish SEO stopped saying. Speed isn't important because slow sites rank. EEAT isn't real because sites with bad EEAT rank. Good content isn't a thing because bad content ranks. I don't know, maybe that's why we call them ranking signals and not rules. And the bigger point is there are billions of searches every single day and billions of content. Your one anecdote in the grand scheme of things is not representative of everything. There's no data behind it. Just because you see one example doesn't mean it's definitive. Just throwing that out there. Just throwing that out there. Do you agree? Disagree? Yeah? No? So earlier in the week on LinkedIn, Gaetano Dinardi, who actually used to work at iPullRank, put out this banger post talking all about what it would actually cost for a single blog to rank for a single keyword, like a single keyword. And he had this kind of thought exercise of like, if you want to, rank for employee onboarding software and compete with Zapier that has a 4,000 word blog post, what would it take in terms of content creation and links and all that and SEO to actually compete with that post, because the value is there. And we have this argument of like, what is the actual investment of SEO and content? Well, he broke it down line item by line item, like content, SEO strategist, content creator, you name it, and came to the conclusion that it was about $10,000. Okay. That's a lot of money, but it's not too bad if it can generate a ton of ROI. He actually came back the next day and was like, you know what, realistically, it's going to take this and that and the other thing, 30,000. So I'm talking with the founder of iPullRank, Mike King, and we're like, you know what, let's do a deep dive into this. And so I started to investigate, and I wrote my own blog post. How much does it cost to rank for a single keyword? And the first conclusion I came to was, it doesn't work like that, right? Like SEO doesn't work in a vacuum where you're only going to rank for one single keyword. If anything, everything's interrelated. You can't just always create one post and just all of a sudden rank for the top out of the context of your brand authority and the other content, topical authority, you name it. But for the sake of the exercise, I said, okay, what if you're a financial service provider? You're a big bank and you want to rank for something like mortgage refinancing. What would it take? And so I went through the process. I looked at the top ranking result, which was actually not that much content. It was Bank of America with a calculator and some internal links on how much it would cost to refinance your mortgage. And so I went through the process and I found that, if you broke down to do what Bank of America did, and then maybe what Rocket Mortgage did, the number 2 ranking, which was about 2,000 words of FAQs and more context and textual writing, I found that $1,500 for an SEO strategist, $500 for a content brief, $800 for a writer, $100 for editorial using like Editor Ninja, $1,500 for internal linking, $10,000 for actually developing that calculator, because that's where the expense really comes in. $2,000 for content and UX. For content design, staging, and QA would be another $1,500, and then link building, because it's such your money, your life, so high level, estimated for 50 links that cost like $750 a pop, probably be close to like $37,500. So you add all that up and you come to the conclusion it's going to cost $55,000, and you're like, why would I pay that much for a single piece of content? But then when you break down how much money you could make in terms of the traffic it would generate, the lead conversion rate, how many leads you would get from it, the actual conversion of those leads to people who would, finance a home, and then the closing costs, the average closing costs for mortgage refinancing over the period of a year, it would ultimately make you $3.6 million. That's 60 times the ROI. And that's just speaking for one keyword. So let me ask you this. If you can prove that that's the ROI, why wouldn't you make that investment in SEO? I think it's compelling. I think it's interesting. I think there are flaws because you do need to take into consideration the nature of the keyword, like the search intent, the keyword difficulty, the industry that you're in. Is it like geography, local? All those aspects will influence what keywords are actually worth, and whatever is ranking there, what that would take to rank. But it's an important and valuable exercise in terms of the value and long-term value of SEO. Do you think it's BS? Do you buy it? How do you look at the value, how much it would cost to rank for a single keyword? I also did break down like other different situations. Like if you're in e-commerce, you got to take into consideration how much it would cost for product photography. If you're a local business, you got to build up your Google business profile and the SEO related to that. There are a lot of adjacent ancillary types of costs that you need to take into consideration, but it was a helpful and cool exercise nonetheless. Shout out to G for his post and the inspiration. Really cool article by Jeannie Jones of InLinks on the Advanced Web Rankings blog, talking all about how entities are changing SERPs and how SEOs really need to use it to improve their clients' performance. She breaks down what entities are, entity SEO, how using things like structured data and semantic structured data can actually help Google contextualize and understand what your brand and your business and your writing is all about, to disambiguate, to make sure the specific entities are relevant, to build relationships, to strengthen internal linking, to improve your rankings ultimately, and especially as we see things like knowledge panels and these different actual SERP features show up beyond just the organic blue links, your entity association and strength is going to become that much more critical to the success of your business in organic search. Genie breaks it all down. She gives specific actionable examples about where you can use semantic schema, the actual JSON code or markup that represents what your site is about, and how to know if Google understands that you're trying to represent these entities beyond just your brand, the topics you associate. A lot of it sounds jargony, but when you think of the idea of Google wants to surface the most relevant topics and the authorities on those topics for the best user experience, it makes sense. Definitely check out that post. SEO roadmap, SEO strategy, not the same thing. Really cool update on a massive comprehensive article published by Tory Gray and Heather Kaeowichien on the Gray.blog, their agency, on how to create an SEO roadmap. Basically, what they talk about is this idea of you have your strategy, you've done your market research, you identify what you want to do, how you want to tackle organic search for your brand. The roadmap is what you're going to do and the time it takes to do it, laying it out in phased increments, going through prioritizing what can be quick wins, what are long-term, what will show the biggest payoff, move the needle, what are low priority, how to map it out in terms of like actual planning of when you're starting it and when you're delivering it. They have a fantastic spreadsheet sort of guide that you can use on Google Sheets that's available for free download. But I love how comprehensive it is, basically from building the plan, using the spreadsheet, mapping out all the deliverables, even going through different types of project initiatives, whether they're technical SEO or content, you name it, there's a whole list there. So you go from the beginning to the end and you feel confident that you're able to build an SEO roadmap of your own by the end. Check out that resource. For third, fourth year running, Aira and Women in Tech SEO with Patty Mugan and Arija Abuwali are gathering their survey for the State of Technical SEO 2024. If you have a chance, go and submit to that. It's fantastic. In years past, it gives you insights in terms of, the pressing nature of technical SEO, what are common themes, what are issues, how are people figuring it out, what are they getting stumped by, how much they're investing in it. And then the amazing Women in Tech SEO community provide their analysis on the results that ultimately comes out with this great piece of content for you to consume and get a sense where you are to, for benchmarks and standards and all that jazz. So link, go ahead and fill out that survey. Any gender may participate, please do. Appreciate it. There you go. Another episode of the SEO Weekly in the books. A little condensed, but still so much to process. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, if you enjoyed this, if you liked it, whatever, subscribe to the channel, give me a like, leave me a comment. Engagement matters, pushes up the algorithm. My name is Garrett Sussman of iPullRank. I'll be back next week. So see you then, right? I guess so. Peace.